Let's talk about the meta in Americas. In all four regions, different teams are playing different comps, but Americas, it seems pretty transparent what the meta is starting to shape out to be. And we're going to divide it into three parts. The first two are the two teams that are defining the meta on certain maps. And the last part is the maps that have a lot more nuance and variations, which some teams capitalize on. Let's start off with the first, and it's Lev. Lev has continued to define the meta since the beginning of stage 1. A lot of their comps are currently being run within a lot of the Americas teams. Split is still being defined by Lev's comps. It's the Neon Phoenix, the Omen, and the Viper, and then also the Fade. For a map that's a little bit decent sized, there is a lot of gaps, and Lev make up with this by constantly refighting in a lot of key areas in order to be able to dominate the map. The key emphasis of Lev is their constant control of vet, mid, and both the heaven spaces and also ramps on a site. Lev do it for a multitude of reasons, but the key priority is being able to fast rotate between each site. And so that allows them to have a really strong defender side despite the lack of a sentinel. The other map that Lev has defined is Ascent. Believe it or not, they have not played it this whole group stage. This whole stage 2, they have not played it, but yet they still define it. We see Envy starting to pick up a lot of the ideas that Lev are starting to do overall, whether it be Split, whether it be Ascent, whether it be a lot of the other maps. They're overall copying the double duelist. Envy realized that a lot of what Lev do, especially on Ascent, is being able to control space and be able to re-clear and fight for space with their double duelists with Phoenix and Neon. And then Chamber is the sentinel player that can hold down an offline, can also control space on the attack and defender side. Now that brings us to the other team that has defined the meta, believe it or not, and that's Loud. Loud has rolled with a comp that has granted them a lot of success, especially on a lot of maps. And a lot of the Americas teams are starting to pick up on the strengths of these comp, and that's the double sentinel. Loud has defined Sunset with the Chamber Sage. One of the things that makes this comp really thrive is the ability to control space through their double sentinels, whether it be through their defender side or their attack side. We can speak of Sage and how her ability to throw up walls and cut off spaces to prevent rotations through a certain choke point. And then on the flip side, one of the strongest abilities that Sage has is the slow. Now that brings us to Summit, and Summit hasn't been totally figured out. One of the comps that has really excelled is the same comp that Loud has run for a lot of their maps, and that's the double senti. And especially with Luke Shaw on the helm, being able to be the chamber where honestly this dude doesn't miss a shot. If he is on an op line, it's rare to see that he misses a shot point and blank. And given that Summit has a lot of corners, small choke points, and a lot of avenues and links to go through, Sage has the ability to be able to simply stop attackers and also cut off rotates on the defenders. On Summit, we see a lot of A splits and B splits, a lot of splits through sides, just because if a team gets caught in a choke, they want to be able to have options to be able to maybe even hit the other side or re-hit. And now there is a variation of this, and Energy has been technically the best team just because they have been undefeated on Summit. This one's a little bit more niche. They run the double initiator with the KO and the Sova, and then they have a solo Brim and a solo Neon. And not to mention the Cypher. A lot of what this comp does is be able to control space and have utility to be able to pick up regardless if it's attack or defense. And with a solo Brim, so much value is placed on the smokes, given the fact that the smokes last forever. They're one of the longest smokes in the game. And being able to have a good player at the helm like Kiko, who isn't going to waste a smoke 99% of the time, who isn't going to fall for a bluff. And so while this is very niche and fits a lot of what Energy do, this is something that they excel in, but I wouldn't say that this is the meta. Again, this is something that's successful for them, but it is a variant of what we traditionally see and what a lot of teams run. If you were to try that in ranked, I think you would need a lot of players. You would need a lot of players capable of being accurate and being good decision makers, especially with their utility. Now let's get into the third part, where there's a lot more variance where a specific team isn't defining the meta. For example, Breeze. And for teams, we can look at 100 Thieves. They thrive with a solo Harbor. And a lot of the theory is that you place a lot of value again with a solo smokes, where if you draw out the util prematurely, then that allows the opposing team to be able to navigate a lot easier. And 100 Thieves run the Neon Phoenix. Surprisingly, you would associate that with Lev, but Lev, it's actually their permaban. And you would think this would be associated with Lev. And the funny thing about it, and a quick side note, is that while I was looking and researching this, Lev actually haven't played Breeze, Lotus, or Ascent. That's 3 maps out of the 7 map pool that Lev hasn't shown. But again, surprisingly, 100 Thieves adapt this idea from Lev, even though Lev don't necessarily play it. And even if they have played Breeze in the past, they don't even play Neon Phoenix. And so what makes this comp work really well is the ability to be able to flash and have pretty much 3 walls. You have the Neon wall, the Phoenix wall, and then obviously you have a Harbor wall and then the Cove. Most of the time they rely on a Neon wall to be able to hit the site, and then as the Neon is pathing through site, then the Harbor wall goes up for more leeway as the team exits sites. And then on the B side, where the Harbor wall is still necessary, you still have the Neon and Phoenix wall to be able to adapt on the fly, to throw up walls in certain spaces to be able to control the space or either deny space from the opponent. And what makes Breeze a little bit more complicated is that a lot of teams are running the Neon, but it's a matter of who's playing the smokes. We have a solo Harbor as the 100 Thieves comps, but a lot of teams play double controller where they have a Harbor Viper, usually a Cypher with them, an Initiator, in a lot of cases Sova, and then Neon. while Energy run a double controller, double initiator. That means the Sova, the KO, Viper, Harbor, and Kiko as the Jet. So there's been a lot of variants, and I think it's a matter of what the team's playstyle is. And so again, to reiterate, Breeze is a little bit complicated. 100 Thieves run Neon Phoenix with the solo Harbor, while Energy run a double controller, a double initiator, and a solo Jet. And so for Haven, Lev and 100 Thieves have a mixture of the comps, but they have a solid overall idea where they're doing double duelists. It's just a switch between the smokes and the initiators, where it's obviously Neon Phoenix, but the switch is with Fade or Sova, or it's Omen or Astra. And so it's depending on the playstyle. I know that with Lev, there's a lot of versatility with the Astra, but a lot of the win cons, especially with the Omen, Omen's flexibility is a little bit different. He's more of a movement agent who can TP past trips. The thing that Omen gets the most value of is his blind. And yes, while this isn't as complicated as Breeze, I feel like it's just suited on the playstyle on the team, where 100 Thieves are pure tempo, where they're running a lot of the Omen to be able to accelerate on the opponent or outmaneuver the opponent in certain key points on the defender and attack side. One key thing that I purposely didn't mention until this point is the swap in Sentinel. While Cryo plays the Chamber, while Cryo plays the Cypher and Neon plays the Chamber, they have a lot of different roles and a lot of different objectives. While Cryo's sole purpose is to be able to get info for the defender or attack side, and his team wanting him to anchor on sites, especially on the defender side. While on the attack side, they want him to be able to take timings and allow the team to get info on the defenders. While Lev, they want to be able to put Neon on his strong suit agent, which is Chamber, to be able to hold op lines and to be able to punish a lot of the laziness of opponents. So teams that don't have the awareness of Neon in certain spots, his proactivity and his agency is what excels him in the position, especially on Haven as the Chamber. So believe it or not, the last map, which is Lotus, has actually kind of been defined. A lot of the teams, pretty much almost 90% of the teams, are playing Erase, Vice, Viper, Omen, and Fade. I'm pretty sure you know by now, but obviously Lotus has certain set plays. On the defender side, there's always a Seize nade on Rebel to control that space as the defenders, and on the flip side, on C side, usually the Vice has it set up there. A lot of teams are trying to counter the Vice, trying to find the Vice wall early so that they can trip it either on the B side or the C side. One of the benefits of this comp is the double controller. Obviously we have Omen, which can be the second entry for the Raze, who is able to take a lot of space and a lot less time to be able to control a site, either on the defensive side as a retake or the attack side. Put it this way, Viper on her own on the defender side can smoke A, B, and C, with the Viper orb on C and a Viper wall starting from B main all the way to A3. One thing I am going to go over is a lot of the other regions like Pacific and EMEA. What is their meta comps? Compared to other regions unlike Americas, teams are actually playing the Yoru a lot more. We can look at Pacific, for instance, T1 and their 13-0 win against Full Sense, they brought out the Yoru. They put Meteor on the Yoru. It looked pretty cut and dry as a comp that T1 could take advantage of. And so again, that's how I think the meta has been defined in Americas. And over the course of time, especially as we get out of play-ins and into playoffs, we can see if these established metas either evolve into different things. I feel like a lot of these teams are going to start to show a lot of the things that they've been hiding. Just like I mentioned earlier, Lev has not shown 3 maps out of the 7 map pool. So they only played 4 maps within 5 games throughout the group stage. Who knows if they even pull out the Yoru? Because one of the things that made Neon a star was when he first started playing was the Yoru. They're playing Yoru on Breeze and they were running down teams, especially with him on the op. And so I wouldn't be surprised if teams like Lev, teams like 100 Thieves, teams like Loud, and maybe even teams like Energy start to pull out a lot more surprise picks and start to evolve and curate maybe even a new meta. And so yeah, at this point, we're going to see who is eliminated and who is going to make it into playoffs to be able to see the most important matches of the year to be able to make champions. If you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate it. I am currently doing a lot of watch parties. I currently watch Pacific, Americas, and a little bit of EMEA. And so if you're ever by and I'm live, come by. Come by, chat, and also subscribe. Man, I feel like Pacific has a lot of more of the nuance and the tactics that are kind of accelerating the game to be more gunfight oriented. I feel like previously it's been like more like tactics and slowing down the round and figuring out your opponent, whereas a lot of the Pacific ideas are more just about taking space, being aggressive, being fearless. So even if there is an op, we still run it down. We still go because we know that our team play is that good. So even if there is an op, we can still win in a man advantage. And so it's going to be interesting to see if a lot of these teams and a lot of these teams are starting to pick up on it, but Pacific has been ingrained in it since the start. And so it's going to be interesting when we get to champs.